Okay, I think we can get going here. For those who are speaking tonight, I'm going to make sure that you're a co-host. I know Shannon's already a co-host. Ed is now also a co-host, as well as Josh and Mary too. Mary, let me make sure you're a co-host.
That's okay.
But it looks like we don't have anybody else trying to join at the moment. So I think this is our crew. We just had one. So it looks like we're at 31 people. This is a darn good crowd. So let me just kick things off here. So for anybody who doesn't know, my name is Colton Dale. I am second vice president of the Grosse Pointe Democratic Club. And I'm just going to get things started here, and then I'm going to pass it off to Shannon because I actually have to leave and go do something else, a different virtual meeting. So welcome, everybody. This is going to be another good training event so that we can all sort of get on the same page and get the information and resources that we need so that we can all play a part as individuals, but also be a part of the collective effort to make sure that Democrats win up and down the ticket. So I already gave my introduction. I'm hoping we can go around really quick and just, if you could just really briefly say your name, your city, and if you are a precinct delegate, give us your precinct number, and I'll call you out and make sure that you are unmuted as we go around the horn here. So let's start with Ed, since Ed is at the top left of my screen. Ed?
Hi, everybody. Ed Keelan, Grosse Pointe Park. I'm a precinct delegate in precinct number 2 in Grosse Pointe Park.
Shannon?
Shannon, Grosse Pointe Farms, precinct delegate in precinct 3 in the Farms.
So next I'd like to kick it over to Josh.
Everybody, Josh Duffy, Grosse Pointe Shores. I'm not a precinct delegate. I'm working with the Michigan One campaign, so I'll be here to help everybody.
Thank you, Josh. Emily Everett. Oh, you're on mute, Emily.
Emily Everett, Grosse Pointe Woods, precinct 2.
Thank you. Beverly?
Yes.
Can you
hear me?
yourself? Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, Beverly Brown, Detroit, precinct 25. I'm a precinct delegate.
Thanks, Beverly. And Michelle.
Hi, Michelle Mormel. I'm in St. Clair Shores, and I'm running for precinct 13.
Thank you, Michelle. Gail.
I'm Gail Urso in Grosse Pointe Park. I'm possibly going to be a precinct delegate in precinct 2.
Thank you, Gail. Laverne. Oh, you're still muted, Laverne.
Okay, Laverne Rutledge from Harper Woods. I'm a precinct delegate for precinct 4.
Thank you, Laverne. And next is Greg, who is currently labeled as Kathy. But we're gonna look past that, Greg.
Yeah, hi, Greg Gardner. Kathy and I are both precinct delegates in Grosse Pointe Woods, precinct 1.
I'm on the.
Thank you, Greg. Next is Ronald.
I'm Ron Irby. I'm on the ballot for precinct delegate 15th precinct, Detroit.
Thanks, Ronald. Arthur.
Hi, I'm Arthur Mitchell. I'm a precinct delegate in Grosse Pointe Farms, precinct 1.
Awesome, thank you. Rose.
Hi, I'm Rose Tokatlian, precinct delegate. I'm in Grosse Pointe Park, precinct delegate candidate for precinct 1.
Thank you, Rose. Anthony is next.
Yes, my name is Anthony Adeboyega, precinct delegate 34, Detroit.
Thank you. Next is Patrick.
Pat Haran, precinct 4 in Grosse Pointe Woods.
Thank you, Pat. Next, I have Mimi.
Hi all, Grosse Pointe Shores, Precinct 1, write-in candidate.
Awesome. Good luck.
Should be okay.
Next, I have Denise. Oh, we can't really hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Now we can.
My laptop is giving me problems, so I'm using my cell phone. Hello, everyone. Denise Allen, Grosse Pointe Woods, Precinct 2, write-in.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Kathleen McGovern.
Kathy McGovern, I am a precinct delegate candidate in Grosse Pointe Park, Precinct 4.
Thank you very much. Next is Rod.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rod Montz. I am from Harper Woods. I am a precinct delegate candidate in Precinct 6.
Thank you. Laura. Oh, hold on. Laura, you're still muted.
They do this all day long.
There we go.
Laura Kellett, Grosse Pointe Farms, Precinct 5.
Thanks, Laura. Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Rulo. I'm a candidate in Grosse Pointe Park, Precinct 5.
Thanks, Mary. And Colin.
Hi, Colin Mulder-McComb, Grosse Pointe Park, Precinct 1.
Thanks, Colin. Next is Yolanda.
Hi, Yolanda Peoples, Precinct 8, candidate for Detroit.
Thank you. Next is Michelle. Is it Cato?
Yes, it's Cato. It's Michelle Cato and my husband Robert. We are Grosse Pointe Park.
Awesome. Are you guys candidates or current precinct delegates?
We are not. We're lifetime members of the Grosse Pointe Democrats, and we, I think, mistakenly joined this meeting thinking it was about getting more active.
It definitely is. This is for everybody. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we can get you on the ballot as precinct delegate, maybe in 2020 or 2022. But thank you. So next I have Brenda.
Yes, my name is Brenda Rockingham, and I am a precinct delegate for Detroit. And I want to say, I'm not sure. When I put this application in, I was actually at a Christmas party for the precinct 14, but I was with a friend of mine. So I'm not sure if this is 14 or not.
Okay, well, welcome. We hope that you can learn a few things tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's see, Carla.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carla Keelan, and I live in Grosse Pointe Park and a candidate for Precinct 1.
Thank you. Is it Sarah Doman?
Yep. Hi, Sarah Doman. I am a candidate for Grosse Pointe Park, Precinct 5.
Thank you for joining us. Next is Iris. Oh, we can't hear you. Yeah, it says you're unmuted, but Iris, do we still have you? Oh, okay. I see you moving, but we can't hear you for some reason, even though it says you're unmuted. So if you want to type in the chat box to introduce yourself, we might just have to do it that way. No worries, though. No worries. Okay, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Backer. I'm in Grosse Pointe Farms, Precinct 2. I'm a precinct delegate.
Thank you. Next is John Arendt.
Hi, I'm John Arendt. I'm a candidate in Grosse Pointe Woods, Precinct 1.
Thank you, John. And I think we have just a couple left here. Gary, I want to kick it over to you.
Hi, everyone. This is Gary Bresdam, president of Grosse Pointe Dems, precinct delegate, Grosse Pointe, precinct number 2. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to a great training. And Colton, thanks a lot for doing the work to host it. And We're going to be active very soon with our signs and with the Biden campaign. This is just the first initial steps. And thanks to the One campaign for leading us to victory in November.
Thanks, Gary. And I think we had one more person join us at the last minute here. Actually, maybe two. Zelda. Is there a Zelda still on with us? Zelda, can you hear us?
Hey, Colton. This is Harry. How are you?
Oh, hey.
My neighbor is sitting next to me here, Sue Ellen, who is going to be a writing candidate for precinct delegate here in Harper Woods, because we had some open spots. And I was trying to get her onto our training here. I think you're wrapping up, but she's going to be working with us. So I have to run, but Sue Ellen will catch whatever's left.
Sure. No, actually, we really are just getting started. We're just doing
okay, great.
And Shannon hasn't even jumped into her presentation yet, but great timing. So thank you for joining us. And I'm going to try Zelda one last time.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now, Zelda.
Okay, good evening. I'm Zelda Anderson, Precinct 16 candidate.
Awesome. Thank you, Zelda. And 1 second while I try to get the call-in number for Iris. Let's see.
Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. What a great crowd from all over. This is super exciting. Colton, if it's all right, I can start sharing and Ed can hop in and give us a little overview.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, so I will start with that. So again, thank you all for being here. And thank you for the One campaign for all your support and for leading us through to victory. Colton already did his welcome. So Ed, if you can hop in and give us the introduction of what we do.
All right, I'm ready. All right, can you hear me all right? Yes? Everybody can hear me all right, correct?
Yes, I can.
Yep, for sure.
Yes.
All right, so I am the chairman of the Precinct Delegate Action Committee for the Grosse Pointe Democrats. I've been doing this for the last 12 years. And at the outset, let me just clear up some terminology issues that are beginning to be a problem. I oftentimes, almost exclusively, refer to this position as a precinct delegate position. And then every election cycle, I'm reminded that there's confusion that arises when people get their ballots because the column heading for the ballot for precinct delegate is entitled Delegate to the County Convention. So don't be confused when you see that, and be aware that that's the area where your name will appear if you file the affidavit of identity, and or the column where you need to write your name if you're going to be a write-in candidate. And of course, writing your name is only half the job. You have to fill in the circle as well. So precinct delegate is the terminology I use. It's used interchangeably, but mostly in the literature from the Michigan Democratic Party and the Grosse Pointe Dems. Every precinct has at least one vacancy. There are 5,000 plus precincts in the state of Michigan. We focus primarily on the precincts in House District 1 and 2, of which there are 110 approximately. And each one of them has at least one vacancy. Several of them have upwards to 6 or 7 positions. And one of the confusing pieces about this campaign routinely is that every April, or every election cycle in April, the chairman of the local congressional district reallocates the number of vacancies per precinct based on a formula that looks to the number of Democratic votes cast for the Secretary of State's office position, for example, in 2018, and then in 2016, the presidential election. So every 2 years, they reallocate based on the prior general election, either based on the Secretary of State's race or the presidential race. So when a lot of you folks signed up to be precinct delegates, I may have told you, for example, that in Precinct 1 of Grosse Pointe Park, there were 6 positions or 7 vacancies. In April of this past year, they reallocated downward and made it 5, I believe. And so we have a embarrassment of riches in Grosse Pointe Park. Number 1, we have 6 candidates for 5 positions. When we recruited them, there were 7. So that happens rarely, but it happens. And the important part to keep in mind is that this is a 2-year term, and statistically speaking, it has been proven that precincts that have precinct delegates, either 1 or 5 or however many, are generally most likely to generate most voter turnout and the most informed, in my view, voters once they get to the polls or once they vote their absentee ballot. So the reason that precinct delegates are important is that they are what I call force multipliers. And I can virtually demonstrate that statistically by looking through the whole litany of positions throughout the state of Michigan and compare those precincts that have a full complement or at least a significant portion of precinct delegate positions filled as opposed to those that don't. And it's especially clear in the primary season. And the way our state districts are laid out and gerrymandered currently, a lot of our state senators and state representatives are determined in the August primary. And universally, the August primary turnout is very low by comparison with the general election. And a lot of the important races are decided in August, and they're decided by the activities of the precinct delegates in those precincts. And the precinct delegates, of course, are running for election themselves, but a lot of them are incumbents, so they're helping the candidates be elected in August. And this was very important in 2018 when Joe Tate was running for the representative seat in House District 1. He was elected to that position principally on the basis of the precinct delegate activity in the Grosse Pointes and Harper Woods. There were six or so candidates, all of whom were in Detroit. And Joe, by virtue of having worked himself very hard in Grosse Pointes and Harper Woods and being very active in the Grosse Pointe Democrats, was able to win his race in large measure because of the Grosse Pointe and Harper Woods vote. So that's proof positive that the precinct delegate position is important, and it's going to be continued to be important for the next 2 years. Including the things that Shannon's going to talk about, I want you to start thinking about the fact that 2 years from now, when we're having this conversation, it's entirely likely that we'll be looking at a whole different array of congressional House districts with different maps. We now have Brenda Lawrence as part of the congressional 14th district. By this time, 2 years from now, we may be part of a 13th district or a 12th district or a 10th district with an entirely new cast of characters. Moreover, I anticipate that there will be redrawing of the state House lines and the state Senate lines. So the knowledgeable and informed precinct delegates are going to have a huge role to play in the next 2 years. That's where you come in. So I need to have you all focus, and part of what your job is to be an informed precinct delegate. In the next 2 years, we're going to be looking at the independent commission redistricting parts of our part of town and parts of the state of Michigan, and those are going to be pursuant to public hearings. Precinct delegates are going to have a large part to play in attending those hearings and making sure that the commission is redistricting in a fair and impartial manner. So it is important to have a full slate of precinct delegates. I want to emphasize that today is Tuesday. You have until the following Tuesday to enter the paperwork to become a write-in candidate. So in some of the districts and some of the precincts that don't have a full complement of names on the ballot, we still have the option to file the form to become a write-in candidate, so we can hopefully get a full complement of delegates in all of our precincts. Once the precinct delegates are elected, I encourage them strongly to participate in the Grosse Pointe Dems as a way of being informed and being aware of elections that are going on. having an opportunity to meet the candidates as they come through the meetings, also to join the Michigan Democratic Party, who has done a wonderful job this year, especially of circulating opportunities for webinars that cover a whole host of topics that will become important or of interest to you, including the usage of the VAN, the Voter Activation Network. That will be a huge part of your information gathering in the next couple of years. So we need to have a permanent infrastructure of precinct delegates in each precinct in order to be ready for what's coming in the next 2 years, especially the election in November. I don't think I have to tell anybody how important it is, but I'll remind everybody of my least favorite number in the world. In 2016, Donald Trump won the state of Michigan by 10,706 votes. In that same election, over 50,000 people voted for
model and a firmware model here that are both on display with the base. These can both.
And Gary Williams got 200,000 votes. And most shockingly, 80,000 people went to the polls and voted, but did not vote for either presidential candidate. So 10,706 votes is like 2 votes per precinct statewide. So all you need to do is think about getting all the people you know, all the people in your precinct registered, out to vote, and out to vote the right way. So that's what I've got to suggest to you tonight, and I'm available for questions whenever you feel the need, and I'll be available for calls throughout the course of the remaining campaign.
Thank you so much, Ed. I think you did a really great job of laying out some of the long-term implications here. Thank you. And thank you for all your recruiting over the years. I know, most of us have been recruited into this important role through you, and we appreciate it. As far as the next step, we're going to be talking about the immediate strategy that's going to be happening between now, the end of July, and November to win. One of the things I just wanted to mention on delegates, it's flexible. It's about grassroots engagement. So some delegates do stuff on election season, and they also attend state convention and county convention. Some delegates do stuff on the ground but don't go to convention. So there's not one required way to do all that, but we hope for as much grassroots engagement as possible. That's how we're building power, and that's how we're winning elections. Of course, why we matter, I think Ed did a great job. And I think this reminder is important. The work doesn't just happen. The change that we need to make requires us all together. Just a little quick thing on structure for folks who might be new. So as we're running, working in this campaign, the MDP is working with us. And we're working with precinct captains. Some folks have stepped up and volunteered this week. More folks we're going to be recruiting in the weeks to come. And then precinct captains sort of help over manage the delegates in their precinct. So some precincts we have a full slate, 6, 7 delegates. So we'll have a captain to sort of make sure that our lists are set and that we're all doing the pieces we need to do. And then we get to the most important part, which is the voters, which is our relationship with the voters, and our connections and our consistent work is what helps us win in November. So the specific plan from now until November, and for folks on the call, this is a picture of when we opened the office. So we usually have an office and we'd be all together doing this. And so we're adapting with the rest of the world, and we're going to be doing a lot of this work virtually. But here we are. The first step that we're going to be doing for our plan between now and November is the second week of August. We're going to be doing a lit drop that is going to be continuing to remind voters how to become a permanent absentee, to increase voter engagement and turnout. Obviously, with COVID, there are so many reasons why we want folks on that permanent absentee list, and it's not as straightforward as people think. We're going to be giving those informations on how to make sure you're getting your ballot, how to contact your clerk, building relationships with voters. So that's like our most important job on the ground, is to be building those relationships, providing the information and support. And then of course, volunteer recruitment. As we go, if we can get 5 more people to join us, to either join us for future delegate work, or join us to phone bank, or join us in the future to help, for the rest of this election season. That's what we're going to be doing. And then, of course, all of this in the long term is building our power in our communities and building our power for the Democratic Party throughout the state. So that was step one. Step two, after we do that first lit drop, we're going to be doing follow-up phone calls in our precinct. So we'll be able to say, hey, I'm your neighbor. I dropped off some information. Do you have any questions? And, I see questions all the time online about how to figure out if their ballot's coming, how to figure out if they signed up for the permanent absentee list or just temporary, just for one election. So there will be questions. And as a neighbor and a precinct delegate, you'll be able to help answer them. We'll be continuing to build relationships. This is where we'll start talking to folks if they need lawn signs. This is how we're going to connect people to that kind of campaigning. And then also for the Grosse Pointe Dems, we can be growing the mailing email list and contacts so folks can stay engaged. We're going to be providing with the MDP, the scripts and the resources to answer the questions and to record requests through Minivan, which I know lots of you have used before. So we'll have all those resources for you in the process. So that'll be our step two, will be follow-up phone calls. Each precinct is gonna be a little different as far as how many phone calls that's gonna be. So in a precinct with a full slate of delegates, it's gonna be a smaller amount of phone calls. In a precinct with maybe one or two precinct delegates, there'll be a few more. But for example, in my farms precinct, we've got about, I think, 150, maybe 175 voters, and there are 2 delegates. So we'll work together. And for those of you on the call that know Maria, she's my co-delegate. So, we'll get that done. But if you have a full slate, it's going to be easier. And that's part of why volunteer recruitment is so important. So that next time around, the precincts that maybe only have 1 or 2 delegates can have, all 4 or 5 or 7 or however many, so we can share that work. After that, we're going to do an early October lit drop. And so this is going to be timed for when the absentee ballots come out from the city clerks. So when the absentee ballots are mailed out, we're going to be doing our lit drop. Going to have endorsed candidates from the Grosse Pointe Dems. So that'll include like our local elections, of course, Joe Biden and Gary Peters and the big elections, but also local election information. And again, our contact information for questions, and again, information so folks can stay engaged with the Grosse Pointe Dems to keep informed as we move forward. Hopefully help support our work. That will be the early October lit drop. And then finally, there'll be the follow-up phone call that'll happen right after that lit drop. This is when we're going to, continue to build those relationships, and we can still continue to recruit in that last minute. As Ed pointed out, that devastating number of under 11,000 voters. We know we have 11,000 votes we could have had in Wayne County in the last election. We know we can get that turnout, but it's going to take us, us and lots of people around the state and county doing that work. So that's that follow-up phone call that will come after that lit drop to make sure that absentee ballots are going back. People know where they can drop them off. There's a whole big issue with mail. So, and we'll talk about this, we'll give you information, but the mail is slow. We're having issues with that. There's questions on postage. So we want to make sure that we have all of that information so nobody's vote is missed because it doesn't get to the clerk on time in this pandemic situation. So those are the main steps that we're going through. We're going to have, and we do have support as we go through these steps. Arthur, who's on the call and is an awesome delegate in the farms, he started a precinct delegate Facebook group. So that's the East Side and Grosse Pointe precinct delegates. So for those of you on Facebook, please join the group. It's a private group, but on the Google form that I put the link to in the chat, if you'd like to be added to that Facebook group, you can just select that on your Google form, and then I will have to friend you on Facebook, and then I will add you to the delegate group. So in this delegate group, we'll be able to share information, success stories, questions, and support each other. It's a really great resource, and thank you, Arthur, for doing the legwork on that. So again, when you fill out that Google form, the link is in the chat. You can check off if you'd like to be in that Facebook group, and then you'll get a friend request from me. I can add you to the group, and then you can drop me as a friend. You don't have to keep me, but hopefully you'll stay in the delegate group. Great.
And your friend.
And you can stay my friend too. That would be lovely, but you don't have to. We're also going to have monthly PD meetups. Unfortunately, it looks like they may be virtual given the COVID situation. I know we'd all rather be face-to-face right now. I know I would, but we're going to have monthly sort of Zoom meetups where we can have a forum for questions, success stories, ideas, where we can learn from one another and sort of figure out how best to move forward and come up. We'll have one of those in August, September, and October. The schedule for that will be set pretty soon, so that will come out over our email list. So we have a precinct delegate email list. We're going to be sending out weekly updates so that you know what's going on, and that'll include updates about the meetups and other activities. Mary, did you have other things to say on the support piece?
Well, first of all, Shannon, thanks. There was a question in the chat room that I'd like us to talk about.
Sure.
And that's about how we are, how are we defining lit drop? Does that mean just dropping off the literature at designated households or knocking?
Oh, sure. That is a really great question.
Yeah.
For this election season, unless something has changed with the MDP, which I don't think it has, we're not doing knocking. We're doing a drop of the literature at the house that will be on your precinct list. It'll be in your neighborhood. And, we'll give you specific instructions, but, they can't go in mailboxes, just like any other lit can't unless it's mailed. But it'll just be a drop. We're not actually canvassing because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I think the other thing is we'll be getting lists, but think about how to build relationship-driven networks, right? Because certainly some of the recent successes in campaigning, Stacey Abrams, for example, her campaign manager wrote a very interesting piece a while back, comes from building relationships. So who in your precinct, who on those blocks are really the people of influence, kind of the activists, the people that other folks look to for help or advice? Think about building your local network as much as you can, for example, through social media. Perhaps there are some faith communities within your precinct boundaries or other types of clubs. So I would just encourage people to, yes, use the lists, but think beyond that in terms of getting the message out and how to kind of build those local network leader relationships. Because when it comes to crunch time in October, November, your ability to reach out to some of those folks, knowing that they reach out to other people or that other people look to them, I think will be very helpful.
Thank you, Mary. That's such a great point. It's something that the club is working on a larger scale as far as identifying key relationships, but it's definitely something we can all work together on. And it's important always, but it's especially important in our current COVID situation that we're going to have to depend on those networks because we aren't going to be able to have as many of the large public gatherings and the thousands of door knocking opportunities that we've had in the past.
Right.
Thank you. So those are some pieces of the support that we're going to be providing along the way. And at this point, we are open for questions. So that was a quick overview, but we are here to ask questions. I have all of our information on this slide. If you fill out the Google form, with your email and to the PD list we already have. We'll be sending our contact information, but if you'd like to capture from the slide, you can always reach us offline as well. And I'm gonna take off the screen share for just a minute so I can see what questions we might have coming through.
I'll launch, Shannon. They're saying that there's no canvassing because of COVID. Is that going to be for sure through November?
That is
I'm
not.
pulling on the McDonald's parking lot right now. That's where you at?
Yeah, I'm in a black car. I'm sorry. If you're not talking, if you don't mind muting,
Yeah,
that's
you gotta sit all the way
as far
out
as
to
I
the
know,
side,
that is
like,
not
that's so obvious.
that is not 100% determined that it will not happen. But for right now, that's what's going on. Josh, do you have additional information on that?
So right now, Governor Whitmer is asking everybody who can work from home to do so. So we're just following her advice right now. Right now, there's no plan to get out and canvass. We're doing everything through the phones. We're hitting the phones really aggressively, but right now there's no timetable of when we're going to get outside and door knock.
That sucks.
I agree.
Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of people, their phone's not in the system. You're not going to get them, right? I mean, I really like walking the streets.
I do too, but I mean, I understand not wanting to get COVID.
Right.
My mom's a healthcare worker. I mean, she's a nurse at St. John. She had COVID back in March. My dad did too. Luckily, they were fine, but I mean, I can definitely understand, not wanting to exasperate the situation. We've heard of people knocking doors, and I mean, and they don't have the canvassing we do, but we might be out there soon, I'm thinking, because we've heard they're starting to knock some doors. So we'll see.
Good.
Great question, though. I'm with you, Pat. I love knocking doors. There's nothing that makes me happier in an election season. But here we are.
Well, and we can still knock doors and step back anyway, right? I mean, that's generally been my practice, is knock the door and then get back to the sidewalk so they can be, at their door and totally not in their face, and it makes them feel safe and comfortable.
Well, I think right now the message from the MDP is that we're not. So we're as part of the Michigan Democratic Party and sort of working through them, that the message is we're not physically knocking right now for safety. And a lot of people aren't interested in having, less interested than usual for those of us who have knocked before, in having an unknown person on their porch right now. So I hope it changes, but for right now, that's the sort of directive coming from the MDP. And yes, great question, Maria. Can we do shout outs to alert the community? We will be lit dropping. I think that's a great idea. And we can be doing that on Facebook, and we can all do that. So we can do that as a club, but we can also do that as delegates. Hey, let people know in your community that you're going to be out there. One of the key pieces when you're engaging with folks as a delegate is, hey, I'm your neighbor, so it's building that relationship. So I'm your neighbor, and I'm going to be out in our neighborhood. I'm dropping off some information to help you engage and vote.
Question, there's Shannon, there's another question in the chat box about coordinating with candidates.
Are we coordinating with candidates? At this point, we'll be doing, I think, what we always do, which is we'll have endorsements that come through the club, and those will be going out on the October lit drop. We don't have any, let's see. We don't have any firm plans yet because it's kind of early, but are we coordinating like with the Biden campaign? Yes, the MDP will definitely be coordinating with the Biden campaign. And with as a club, we're going to be coordinating with the MDP and with the Peters campaign. So I don't know if that was like local candidates or statewide and national.
No, it's just, I always feel kind of disconnected from the candidates' teams. I did last time in 2018. And I just wondered if, we can go out and do literature drop off, but if we've got stuff from the Biden campaign and the Peters campaign and Joe Tate and Brenda Lawrence and everyone else, it would be a good thing.
Absolutely. I'm sorry that in the last election season, that was how it went for you, Arthur, and I'm sure other people had that experience. But yes, we are going to be working with the Biden campain.
Okay, good. Excuse me.
There are not only is the MDP, but there are folks right here that the club has had relationships with for years who are running the local Biden campaign. So we will definitely be coordinating closely. And I'm all for, let's work smarter, not harder. So the more we can coordinate, the better.
Thank you.
Also, Arthur, after the primary next week, it'll the MDP will be a much more unified effort. So after that, there will be much more cooperation with all the candidates.
Thank you.
As you are completing the Google form, or when you do, in the comment section, if you can include your precinct, that would be great. That we have city on there, I think, but not actual detail of precinct, so that would be lovely. Oh, are we lit dropping and calling only to registered Dems? So Josh, you cut us our list. Who's on there?
So the list we have for everybody's precinct right now, it's likely Dems, and definitely some people that are middle of the road that that are persuadable. We're not going to be calling any Trump supporters off of these ban lists, but these are going to be registered voters, likely Democrats that we have identified. If you're interested in calling a larger population, I know Ed has tried out our dialer. We've been utilizing that as of late to call everybody, and but the lists you'll be getting are likely Democrats.
That's another great question, Laura. Can folks with good coverage of their precincts be used to help in other precincts? Absolutely. So as far as what we laid out for our precinct plan, there are some precincts where it's going to be pretty simple. You might divide up and have 20 or 30 calls. Please help. Yes, we're going to help coordinate, from the sort of the club level and the captain level. If we have lots of precincts where we do have lots of precincts where we have a really strong team, then yes, we will be able to help. And as Josh brought up, it's not just the precinct delegate work that we just laid out, those 4 pieces, but I'm also going to share for a second so we can look at a couple other opportunities. So in addition to the precinct delegate work that we just talked about, I'm going to assume that my sharing's working. There are more opportunities to help win. So those 4 pieces, the 2 lit drops and the 2 phone calls, are awesome, and we can't wait to have you help with those. In addition to that, for folks that can, the Grosse Pointe Dems has weekly Wednesday phone banks and weekly Saturday phone banks. Those are all, the information's all on Facebook, and we send out email reminders. So those phone banks are every single week until election day. And then the MDP is doing daily phone banking. So the Grosse Pointe Dems is with the MDP. So we're together. We're one team here to win. But also the MDP is doing daily phone banking. So if you can't make it on a Wednesday or a Saturday, you can certainly join in on that calling campaign any day. And as Josh had said, even an hour of calling, what you were telling us, an hour of calling, we were reaching how many voters, Josh?
Well, with our so we moved to our new automatic dialer. If you call for 45 minutes, you can probably talk to 30 to 40 people. You'll get some wrong numbers and some angry voters, but if you're calling into your precinct, you're gonna get a lower contact rate. You'll just be calling from your own cell phone, but you'll still be able to reach about you'll still be able to have about a 10% contact rate. I mean, if you talk to 5 people a day, it all adds up. When we only lost by 10,706 votes, so It all adds up.
I'm just trying to make sure we're answering all the questions as we go. Oh, will the call list get distributed through our email accounts? Yes. So we will be the MDP is Josh, our awesome organizer. So when I say the MDP, it's Josh. Our organizer will be getting us all of our lists, and then we're going to help get them to all of our delegates. So precincts that have captains, those captains will then help get those lists out. Precincts that don't have captains, you'll be hearing from Josh and myself, and we'll get you those lists over email. And then we're also going to be working with the minivan. So folks who have used that before in previous elections, minivan is an app on your phone, and when you log in to minivan, you can put a list number in, and so that list will be your precinct. So we'll be able to have that minivan access, and we'll give you your list numbers, and then that list will be your precinct. And then you don't have to worry if they're if you're in like Grosse Pointe Farms, Laura, I can't remember your precinct, but I know it's stacked, it's full. You're not going to be calling the same people because the minivan lets you know if a partner has already called on that list. So it's a great tool that we will be using as well. Are there other questions? Rod. Yep. Send us a list of who's, yep, we can send you that for sure, Rod. So Rod was asking if we can share a list of who is here on the call, Rod, or who the other delegates are.
Who the other delegates / candidates in Harper Woods are, since there's such a low number of us, we should probably be connected.
Okay, yep, we can help facilitate that for sure. And a couple of folks on the call are Harper Woods delegates, but yes, we can make sure we'll have all your contact information, and we can connect our Harper Woods delegates for sure. And there are some precinct in Harper Woods that have some openings. So there is still the capacity for write-ins.
Including mine.
We can do that. So as Ed said, there's a form online. So if anybody knows any friends or family that would be interested, there's a form online. It just has to be taken to the city clerk on election day, and then you can write yourself in and tell your friends and family to do the same. Am I missing any questions? So please hop in. I see a lot of them in the chat, but I'm guessing there may be more.
I think we've covered this chat box pretty well. There was one suggestion that if we double up on some precinct delegates, with other neighborhoods who don't have a delegate, it may be helpful to do it early and keep the neighborhood with the same delegate. So, I mean, as much, in a perfect world, that's how we'll operate. I think the familiarity thing is helpful to the extent we can do it. That will depend on a lot of factors. So. But let's be strategic.
I have a question. It's Maria.
Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, so my question is, we're called the East Side or Grosse Pointe East Side precinct delegates. How are we involving the Jefferson Chalmers area and all the way up to 8 Mile? How do we involve them so we leave no one out?
Yep. So our precinct delegate list, we have several delegates from Detroit precincts with us today, from Harper Woods precincts, from Grosse Pointe precincts. So we have delegates from each here. And the precinct delegate email list that we created this year has all of the precinct delegate candidates from all of House District 1 and House District 2. So we are going to continue to communicate with all the delegates. So maybe everybody couldn't be on this Zoom call, but we're going to continue to build that relationship. That email list has all of the precinct candidates, except for write-ins. So the write-ins weren't filed, so we don't have that information. But up before write-ins, we have that precinct delegate 1 and 2 candidates, and we have our email list. So that's our first line. And then, of course, as Mary was talking about earlier, Maria, I hope you were on at that point. One of the key pieces is for all of us to be doing, you know, relationship and networking. So in our communities, you know, so if there are communities where there aren't delegates, there are always folks who are active and engaged, and how do we connect with the folks who are active and engaged and have large networks that we can connect with. So, you know, an example, Maria, would be, you know, Tammy Black and Jefferson Chalmers. You know, we're talking about doing some networking events there with Tammy. So we're going to keep growing that.
Hi, Shannon.
Yes.
Hi, this is Sue Ellen Carrier. I'm a write-in candidate for Harper Woods. And I had a little different experience with filling out the form. They will notarize it at the city clerk's office in Harper Woods, but you have to bring it to the county clerk in Detroit to be verified.
Ed, did you hear that?
I did, and that's not correct. The form itself, just promulgated by the Secretary of State's office, provides for 2 methods by which you file it. The first option is to file it with the Wayne County clerk, which turns out to be the Wayne County Elections Commission.
Right.
And or you can file it with the precinct board on the day of the election. If you file it with the Wayne County Elections Commission, it does need to be notarized.
Yes.
If you file it on the day of the election with the precinct board, they can verify your identity and signature there without notarization. Those are the 2 options. Harper Woods has had some issues in the past of understanding the requirements as laid down by the Secretary of State and the Wayne County Elections Commission, so you have to be persistent, but those are the rules as disclosed by the state form.
Right. Right, that's what I had to do as well. I didn't know the second option. I just followed the directions on the form that got printed for me to be a write-in. So I had to have it notarized at Harper Woods and then send it to the Kathy Garrett in Wayne County.
Did you mail it in?
Yes.
How recently?
Friday, I think it was.
I would encourage you to take the same form off with you to the precinct board on the day of the election and physically hand it to them.
Where is the precinct board?
Where you vote. Are you voting in person on Tuesday?
No, I've done absentee ballot.
Well, nevertheless, if you wrote your name in on the absentee ballot, you
Yeah.
can take that form to the precinct board on the day of the election and give it to them. I would recommend that just to be sure.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Shannon, Michelle, is St. Clair Shores included in that District 1 and 2 that you were talking about?
So sadly, and I don't want to lose you, so I want to say it, but no. So House Districts 1 and 2 is not St. Clair Shores.
Not yet. 2 years from now.
Yeah, but as Ed pointed out, we don't know what's going to happen in the next couple years, and the resources and information that we're working with, we can certainly continue to share. So, you know, Michelle, I hope that you stay engaged. We certainly have members from St. Clair Shores, but as far as our precinct delegates, we don't have the delegates of St. Clair Shores, except for you. But I have seen there's a whole bunch of new activity around equity and justice in St. Clair Shores. And so that might be a really great place to start helping that grow if that's not happening in an organized way. And, you know, I'm up for helping with that.
Cool. All
right. Question for Josh. How will the One campaign be coordinating with the Biden campaign?
So we're the Biden campaign is kind of officially, or not officially, but they've these past 2 weeks they've kind of been they've been hopping on our state calls and kind of giving us directives. So this might be a better question for somebody above me, but I know we've been starting to incorporate more Joe Biden talking points into our script when we're reaching out to voters. If you've heard of his Build Back Better initiative, that's kind of been our big focal point, is making sure people understand what he's trying to do and everything like that. So I really don't have too much for you, but we're starting to coordinate more, I guess.
All right. Does anybody else have any pressing questions?
I have just a reminder in case anybody didn't notice it, the Grosse Pointe Park precinct voting areas have been jiggered a little bit, so that you need to be aware that if you vote, I think it's in precinct 6 and, hold on, there are 2 precincts in Grosse Pointe Park that are going to vote in a different spot. That is precinct 6 and precinct 5 will be voting at the Lavin Activity Center as opposed to defer school. So you might want to spread the word to your friends and family if you were in those 2 precincts.
Thank you, Ed. And just a final plug, if you haven't been able to fill out the Google form yet, the link is in the chat a couple places, but if you have questions on that, you know, if you still haven't gotten it, I'm happy to send it out again. But that's the way we're gonna make sure that we have everybody on our precinct delegate list. We'll send out a copy of this presentation. We'll be sending out additional information on that list, so and updates as we go. So we'd love to have all your information, and then that's also will help us coordinate. I know a lot of people are asking, which is great, about coordinating with their delegates, and yes, that's what we are going to be working on and doing. Are there any more questions? I know we're at 7:32, so I want to respect everybody's time. But if there's any final questions? Well, I am just thrilled with the turnout tonight. We're so excited to see everybody. There's no need to talk about why we have to do this work. It is just so desperately important that we win in November. So thank you for being here. My information is out on the slides. Hopefully you captured that, and reach out anytime with questions, but we're going to do this. I know that this is an incredible group. Having worked with some of you before and having lots of new faces, I know we can get this done, and we have great support with Josh as an incredible organizer, great energy and great commitment. So I'm absolutely positive that we can do this, but we are going to need to have everybody's help in the process. So thank you.